Welcome to the newest episode of the Ricecrypto Show. Today, I am joined by shadowy super coder David Burkett. He is the lead developer of MWeb on Litecoin. And we're going to be diving into the world of privacy and fungibility. Before we get into it, make sure you visit ricetvx.com and sign up for my mailing list so you never miss an update or new Rice TVX and Rice Against the Grain content. You will also find links to all of my various channels as well as my social media. Make sure you're following both of my YouTube channels, Rice TVX as well as Rice Against the Grain. And due to censorship, make sure you follow me on other alternative platforms such as Rumble and Odyssey, where I do post up exclusive content. If you want to support Rice TVX, be sure to check out and join my Patreon channel, where you will get early access to my videos with no ads, unedited. You will also get exclusive content and more. I also wanted to share that I have recently partnered up with ITM Trading. So if you want to schedule a gold and silver strategy call to build your wealth shield and support Rice TVX, be sure to use my specific landing page that you see on the screen, and I will also include custom Calendly links and an 800 number that you can utilize to schedule your strategy call with the ITM trading professionals. And again, it is a way to support Rice TVX. I will include links in the video description for everything I just mentioned, as well as everything shared on today's video. Okay, joining me on today's show is David Burkett. He is a blockchain developer. He has worked with Grin++ and Beam. He currently is with the Litecoin Foundation as a lead developer of MWeb, which is a MimbleWimble extension, adding privacy and fungibility to Litecoin. Hopefully I said that correctly. David, welcome to the show. How's it going, my friend?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Well, again, man, before we started recording, I just want to say thank you for your time. I appreciate it. I know I've been bugging you kind of since you were brought on to the whole idea of creating this MWeb extension. So we've been talking on the back end for a couple of years, and I'm glad that we got to make time to do it now. And it makes sense. One thing that you don't know about me is sometimes I want things to happen when I want them to happen, but reality sometimes lets me know that things happen when they're supposed to happen.
Right.
So I appreciate your time. Now, before we dive into what MWeb is, do you mind kind of giving a little background on yourself? And in that, can you include when and how you got involved in crypto?
Okay. So background, I worked a little bit on the Ron Paul campaign. So many years ago,
2012. What did you do with the Ron Paul campaign?
Just volunteered a lot, and I was in Kansas City at the time, so I did a lot of volunteering locally, just the standard campaign stuff.
Okay, cool.
But I was very big into Western economics, all that, all the stuff, all the libertarian stuff he was pushing. Still am, and so my first intro then to crypto was back in 2011. I started to read a lot about it from the economics side. I wasn't even interested in the tech at the time. It just sounded cool, but it's just, I was a software engineer, but I just never dug into the tech. And I just, from the money side of things, it's everything I had been wanting. It's, gold 2.0.
Right.
It really is. So I was interested immediately. Should have invested, couldn't. Like, it was too hard back then. Like, you had like to sell your firstborn just to like set up an account on exchanges and stuff. So I never did. But
So what is this, like 2011, 2012?
Yeah, 2011. Yeah. Yep. Later 2011. Yep.
I'm trying to place the Ron Paul thing in time.
Yeah, it was like $1 or $2 at the time.
Okay.
So yeah,
Wow.
should have. I really regret that one. Should have sent that firstborn, but I didn't. um, yeah, so I followed it for a couple of years just from the money side, just out of pure interest. And then 2013, I finally bought in, and I, started to learn a little bit about the tech, but just kind of through YouTube and various not very technical um, resources, and I just continued just to be, sort of passively interested in it for several years. In 2017, or it's like 2016, really, I started to, well, I read the white paper, and like it immediately clicked. I don't know why I didn't read it years ago, just never had any interest. But, the white paper is actually, it's incredible. It's so well written. It's so, Satoshi was truly impressive. He could take such a complicated protocol and just explain it to. I didn't have a cryptography background. I had a, software engineering background, but what little bit I knew was enough to just fully grasp at least, the basics from the paper. And so immediately I was interested and wanted to learn more about the tech, from the tech side of things. And then, so then I started to look at opportunities, and I saw Grin was being worked on. Grin was, a MimbleWimble protocol, the first one of those. So I read up a little bit on it. Like, this is like mid to late 2017. I don't even know when I did eventually start coding for it, but eventually I decided that they were doing everything from like a very, very hacker, like Unix, terminal side of things. And they were targeting the very technical, and they were like, they had no usable wallet or nothing that like everyday people would be interested in. They were just looking at the protocol and the very nerdy tech stuff. So I saw an opportunity to write a Windows version that people can actually use. So that's what I did. So I created Grin++, which is it's a complete node and wallet. It's like a separate implementation of the node and wallet, and then a user interface for it, and it ended up being I don't know. It's the most commonly used wallet now for Grin, at least the last I checked by quite a long shot. It's
Well, I appreciate you. I wasn't even
Yeah.
sure what the difference of Grin and Grin++ was.
Yeah,
So
Grin++ is just software that's for the Grin coin. It's not a separate coin or anything. It's just
okay.
It's its own node, complete separate implementation of the node. The original is done in Rust, and this is done in C++. Hence the name Grin++. Yeah.
What was your involvement with Beam?
I didn't actually work directly for them, but I worked a lot with them. I have a good working relationship with a lot of the leadership and the technical team there. So we ended up working together just on various like MimbleWimble protocols and just ideas mostly.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, there's like the big two MimbleWimble coins back then. It was Beam and Grin, and Beam was like the other the one that, like, I worked a lot with them, but not on Beam.
So I remember when would it be the MimbleWimble white paper was kind of anonymously released?
Yeah, it was sort of like a Satoshi deal there, although it was just like dropped randomly on some like Onion share or something.
But was the original idea of its release was it meant and intended for Bitcoin?
So we don't know, because it was just a brief just a brief technical paper. We don't know what the intention was, but it does, it would work on Bitcoin with a hard fork or some complicated soft fork like we did with Litecoin and extension block. But they didn't know that at the time. At the time, I'm assuming if they wanted it on Bitcoin, they thought hard fork. But it doesn't. I don't know if it specifically says that in the paper, if it mentions Bitcoin, or if it just talks about the protocol as if you could do it on any new coin or something.
I remember trying to read it back when it soon after came out. I'm not a very technical person. I've progressed a little bit since then, but I don't think that I would have a good time reading the
Yeah.
technical papers when it comes to that stuff.
Tom Elvis J. Short. It was, he's the pseudonymous character who dropped the paper. Um, he was no Satoshi. So the paper he wrote was also brilliant, but not for the everyday reader. So
Right.
It's more
That's kind of what I meant.
technical,
It's more for
less
like a real
polished.
technical
Yeah,
person
it
who
was,
completely understands that.
it's
Otherwise,
still
you're going to get
not,
lost.
it's not like an Ethereum like blue paper or whatever color paper they have that's like 4 million pages long or anything like that. But it's only a few pages long, but it is very technical. It's not a polished, nice, clean white paper like Satoshi wrote.
Okay. Now, you come from a software engineering background. You worked on the Ron Paul campaign. You have Austrian economic libertarian viewpoints, which makes sense why privacy and fungibility with cryptocurrency would make why you would be interested in that aspect. Have you what are your thoughts on some of the other privacy coins that are out, considering, because I think the MimbleWimble coins are considered privacy coins?
Yeah, I think they're considered privacy coins. They're definitely privacy leaning. They're not the most private. I like the other privacy coins. I love Monero. Zcash is great. They all have like their governance issues and everything there. So you can weigh those on your own. But from a technical standpoint, I think most of the privacy coins have a lot of the best developers. They have a lot of really great ideas. They're doing cool things. Most of them scale terribly, and that's where MimbleWimble is very good. Like Monero is, probably the best privacy. Monero and Zcash are like the best privacy you can get. Zcash doesn't scale too terribly, but it's got the issue of it had a trusted setup at least, and no longer needs that, I don't think. But at one point, it was like a trusted setup. So, and it's much more complicated. It's not something that you have to be one of the elite scientists to understand how any of that works. And I'm not one of them. So
Right. It does get in an interesting area.
Yeah. Yes.
Have you looked into Pirate Chain R by any chance?
Yeah. I mean, as far as I know, it's like a clone of Zcash, and they got rid of the transparent coins. Is that right? Yeah.
I'm not 100%
That's my
sure.
understanding. Yeah. That was it at one point. Yeah.
It seemed to be the creators of Komodo, the JL77 or 777 group. It's kind of Satoshi-esque because you don't really know who they are, and very community driven. But yeah, it was. I mean, it kind of has gained some traction. And as somebody who looks into privacy-based coins, anonymous coins, I was just curious what your thoughts were. It really wasn't something I was intending on asking.
So I'm not a good investment guy, but as far as like a technical standpoint, my understanding is it's Zcash without transparent coins. Without, because Zcash you can do transparent or shielded. This is only shielded with Pirate Chain. And as far as I know, it works great. But I don't know much about the Pirate Chain team. You know more than I do. I don't know if they have the technical capability of making sure it remains secure. If vulnerabilities are found, like, I don't know if they work well enough with the Zcash team to get them fixed in time. I assume so.
Okay.
But I can't vouch for the tech because it's like I said, it's a very complicated protocol. So maintaining like something like that could be tricky.
Now, when you mentioned Zcash and like being able to shield your transactions or not shield them, make them transparent, there are like Monero, you don't really have that option, do you?
No, Monero
you can show somebody your
you have view keys, you can reveal certain outputs, but no, you can't. There's no option for just sending a transparent coin. It's
okay.
Every coin is needed to be part of the actual to be part of the shielded. They don't have a shielded pool, but to be part of the anonymity set.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, as far as what is MimbleWimble, can you kind of give a simple explanation as to what it is?
Yeah, so MimbleWimble is I don't know about symbol, but I'll try my
The
best. But
best way you could
MimbleWimble
break
is
it down for somebody who's not
so
super
it's
techy.
it's similar to Bitcoin. It's like if you've heard of confidential transactions, it's where you have inputs and outputs in Bitcoin transactions. Inputs are like coins you're spending. Outputs are like where you're sending new coins. You have an address and you have an amount on the coins. Well, what MimbleWimble does is confidential transactions get rid of the amount. So you just see like an address. But then MimbleWimble takes it a step farther where you don't have an address either. You just, there's the address is hidden within the output itself. So you don't see, like, you don't have to worry about address reuse. You don't have to worry about people seeing the amounts being spent, like how much is in your wallet when you're spending. And then even farther, the reason MimbleWimble was so popular for a while was that it also, unlike all the other privacy coins, which usually come at a scalability like cost, um, the others actually, or MimbleWimble actually, you don't need to download the whole history the way you do with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, you have to download each and every transaction historically in order to verify, to start and verify the full transaction history to run a node,
Right.
basically. With MimbleWimble, you only have to download like a portion of each transaction and then like the current unspent coins list. So it actually scales potentially better than Bitcoin. It's debatable based on usage and other stuff, but logarithmically better than Bitcoin in theory. So it's the first privacy coin that actually or privacy technology that actually improves scalability a little at the same time. So that's what's really cool about it. You just don't need to download the whole history. There's enough in there that you can perform some fancy calculation. It's not too fancy. It's something that someone can figure out if you have any technical background. It's just basically summing up a bunch of coins and making sure it matches some target sum. And it's pretty simple to get a node going. It downloads the chain quickly.
So because you don't have the whole chain history, that helps with the scalability.
It helps with the scalability, yes.
Okay. Because I hear scalability is obviously one of the
and
biggest
there's two
concerns.
types of scalability. So there's scalability of the I'm talking, which is the initial block download. Bringing a new node online. How long does it take to get it going? And then there's the other scalability, which is the real-time transaction processing. To be able to process.
And that's not what you're referring to.
And that actually is slower. That's like all other privacy coins, where it's like each block is actually bigger because of MimbleWimble, and it takes a little bit more processing power to validate a block. But to bring up a node, which is where a lot of the time, which is the big deterrent with running nodes. Most people don't want to run one because they don't want to wait 20, 30, 40 hours to get the node synced.
Right.
So then this helps a lot with that.
Okay. Very cool. Very cool. Now, it was something like August. I'm not sure the specific date, but sometime in late 2019, Charlie Lee reached out to you, I'm assuming, and wanted you to do something with MimbleWimble on Litecoin, because I remember because I've interviewed Charlie a couple of times. He is a big proponent of fungibility.
Yeah. So I actually reached out to him. He was talking about confidential transactions at the time. He mentioned MimbleWimble, and then I think he even started to work with the Beam team a little. When I heard they were interested, I reached out because I knew that it's a good opportunity to do something big. So I reached out to him, and before long, we agreed that I'd be working on MWeb, the MimbleWimble extension block for Litecoin, and then. But I continued to contribute to the community, to the Grin community, for quite a while, until maybe a year ago. And so there was a lot of concern at the time. That's all that was. Just that I was quitting Grin and running to Litecoin or whatever. But I did both in parallel.
Are you still involved with Grin?
No, not really anymore. I still monitor. Sometimes I get questions that I'll answer, but I don't currently contribute.
That title of this blog didn't age well, did it?
Well, I didn't leave. I mean, do you stay in a job forever? Like, no, I stayed
No, I get
at
it. I
least two
get it.
more years.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
were
So
with the project for a
yeah.
while.
So at the time, it was a much
I'm
bigger
just being an
community.
ass. I'm
Yeah, I know,
sorry.
I know. But I mean, yeah, I mean, it's stuck for 2 years. Now it's no longer true anymore. Should have wrote a new one leaving Grin, but just kind of, you know.
That's
Anyway,
cool. No, I mean,
but Grin's still cool. I'd love for them to take off, to get big, and I'm not rolling out contributing to them in the future either.
okay.
It's a good project.
Cool. And when you guys had talked about this, was the original idea for this to be like an extension? Is an extension the same thing as a side chain?
It's not the same thing. A sidechain has more of a trusted component to it. Typically, there's newer ideas for how to do them, but an extension block, every full nodes validate. Like the miner is involved with it. They have to validate it. They have to build it.
Just like regular Litecoin?
Yeah, it's like an additional set of transactions at the end of the standard block. Similar. It's so people say it's very different, but it's not. It's the same. It's very similar to SegWit. Like SegWit is you have your transactions and then you have SegWit data, which is like additional data for each transaction that is part of a block. The old nodes don't even see that data. You can still validate the block without it. But any new node has these additional rules it has to follow, and SegWit, it needs that SegWit data in order to verify them. Similar to that, an extension block is like it's a lot like that, except it's instead of additional data per transaction, it's a whole new set of transactions added to the end of the block that also have their own rules for how they get validated. And old nodes don't have to know anything about those transactions, but new nodes need that data in order to verify it. Yep.
Was it always meant to be an extension?
It's from when I joined, yes.
Okay. And I was just because I was curious that there were like discussions for it to be on chain and part of the protocol, and then that would have caused issues of potentially being delisted.
So it is on chain and part of the protocol, though. So that's kind of the thing. Extension block is on chain. It's additional data on chain. It's just as on chain as SegWit is.
But is there a way to distinguish between a regular Litecoin transaction and an MWeb transaction?
Yes, definitely. Yes. Like I said, at the end of the block, there's an additional set of transactions. Those are MWeb transactions, and those, they have all the hidden amounts and everything. And then in order to go back and forth like the standard coins, there's like a transaction in the original block that like kind of pegs in and pegs out coins, like moves coins from one to the other. That all works, with the protocol to make sure.
If you go on and kind of do some searches for Litecoin and MimbleWimble, there's some older stuff that talks about like Litecoin MimbleWimble delisted by several exchanges for being too privacy protecting.
Yeah, they were very, very tiny. Yeah, it was a big concern at first for many. I didn't really see it as being an issue, but there was a lot of FUD for a while about being delisted because there was a crackdown on privacy coins, and like maybe some Korean exchanges, I think they had to stop supporting Litecoin, where they chose to just out of abundance of caution. And it was all tiny exchanges.
But if you can distinguish between them, then what's kind of being obfuscated versus
and it's valid to only accept transparent Litecoin transactions.
The exchanges,
yeah, they
so
can
I can't send an MWeb. I can't send via like an MWeb extension to an exchange.
Currently, none of them support MWeb. So to them, they're getting transparent transactions.
Now, if somebody sends me some Litecoin via like an MWeb extension, is that coin sort of tainted? You know what I mean by the taint? Can I send it to an exchange then and transparently?
Yeah. So its history ties back to the MWeb. You can follow the history right up until it gets back to the MWeb, and then it's kind of like.
But like in that case, would an exchange accept my Litecoin or no?
Currently, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's not any exchange that won't accept those at the time. There's a fear that someday we could have blacklists of coins, and so that's why I think personally it's important that we get some good usage of MWeb to make sure that a majority of coins trace back to MWeb at some point, so that it's not an easy decision to just,
no, because I was curious how all that worked, because like I was going to ask you a question later privately that's kind of related to this, but you mentioned blacklisted. I think blacklisted and tainted, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm just using a different word.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, and this is a conversation that I had with Charlie before, and this is where fungibility kind of comes into play, is that my Bitcoin is not the same as your Bitcoin. My dollar is the same as your dollar. There's no way to distinguish a difference between that, but because of the purchase, because of the history of the coins, there is a distinguishment. So if, let's say, for example, somebody had used some Bitcoin for something that was being monitored by the federal government in some sort of crime, and they've notated that address as being used in that capacity, and somehow I get some of those coins or piece of that cryptocurrency in my wallet, and now that history is related to me, and let's say the government cracks down and they're not going to allow for acceptance of certain coins because of their tainted or blacklistedness, and then therefore I'm not going to be able to use no one will accept my Bitcoin because of that factor. And that's where fungibility was supposed to come into play. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, so in that case, ideally you would send your coins through the MWeb, and they get a fresh history at that point. So it's not a pure mixer. It's not like perfect privacy or anything like that. But any coin, like if you receive coins that you are worried could be tainted or what could be blacklisted or whatever, you can move them to the MWeb. And the only way they could ever censor those is through miners. So as long as there's at least one miner out there that accepts MWeb transactions, and that'll be accepted, then you can move back to any wallet in your wallet at any time. It's got a fresher history. It's not got a direct link anymore to the tainted coins. And so as long as coins tied to MWeb don't get a bad rep, don't end up being discounted for some reason, then all is well. You should be okay. And so that's why it's important that MWeb gets real usage, so that we don't end up with 0.1% of coins tied back to MWeb, and then they just end up on a blacklist too.
Right. No, and I like the way you explain it. So whatever I put into the MWeb, I'm not going to get the same thing out. So
right. Yeah. You kind of like with Litecoin, Bitcoin, you follow the transaction all the way back to its creation in an original like Coinbase in a block, like a miner reward in a block. Well, with MWeb, you can follow it back to where it was added on the MWeb, and then one of hundreds, maybe thousands of the coins in there. It's like a pool of coins, and there's no direct links back to any history. You kind of lose the history at that point to a degree. Now, all this is probabilistic. Like, privacy is not perfect for any of the coins, and it's Zcash has the closest. Monero is pretty good in that aspect, but it's all probabilistic with privacy technologies at this point. You don't get a purely fresh history. You get there's like a 0.016% chances this coin or whatever else. It's always like you get it's a gradient. Like there's levels of privacy, and this is like a mediocre privacy. It's fairly good. A targeted attack could probably figure it out by a resourceful attacker. So you don't want to use it to go commit terrorism or something like that. And I'm not just saying that because the standard line, use Monero for terrorism. I love Monero. That's the one you should use because it's better privacy. But you still could get a targeted law enforcement attack could still de-anonymize you with Monero or whatever. It'd be way easier on Litecoin. You will get caught if you try to use MWeb for something that,
Well, and I do want to
easily
also say to
picked up.
people, I'm not trying to like encourage people of anything.
Right.
I just privacy
Mhm.
is very important, and I do want to get into why privacy and fungibility are important. But I wasn't even going to talk about this, but you mentioned Monero. Do you remember when the IRS put out a bounty for
I
breaking?
do. Yeah.
See, I feel like when
I
the I
tried. I would love that bounty.
right, well, I feel like with the IR and for one, how do they get the money to offer up a bounty? But
Yeah, I know.
if they're gonna put out something like that in some weird way, I feel like they've already done it, and
Mhm.
they don't want to take responsibility for doing it,
Yeah.
so they want to kind of get some hacker to kind of take the face of being the one that did it. And with that being said, like I've hung out and interviewed Ricardo Spagni, Fluffy Pony,
Mhm.
and his recent legal troubles.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you followed any of that.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
He got picked up
Mhm.
on a private plane, I think in Tennessee, and then for some fraud charges in South Africa, and South Africa
Yeah.
never got him, and the United States apparently released him. And that, to me, with the IRS bounty thing, and then them getting him and releasing him, it makes it very questionable as to me the future of Monero. And I know the Monero community probably would kill me for saying that, but
I don't know if you're suggesting like he was helped
he could have
by
been
in any way.
compromised potentially.
No, I don't. He doesn't. You can. I mean, there's nothing to compromise. He can't. He doesn't have complete control of the protocol, and he doesn't have any kind of special knowledge that would allow like them to de-anonymize transactions or anything.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, he's not. That's not a concern. I can tell you from a technical standpoint, there's
All
nothing
right.
he could have said. So like,
Okay.
there's
Cool.
yeah,
That's good to
there's
know.
no concerns there. I think the best they have most likely is some probabilistic way to sort of follow coins that it could be maybe one of these 30 coins, because Monero, like the anonymity set, and then anonymity set is like a number of different like coins or whatever that it could be, is like for every transaction that takes place, it's like it could be 11 or 17 different, I don't remember what their current value is. Like you basically, when you spend a coin, you're saying I'm spending one out of these 11 or 17 coins randomly chosen throughout the blockchain, and you can only know that it's like, that it's in that set, whichever one you're spending. You don't know exactly which one, and then it like fans out, and then it becomes really, really hard to follow anything. And so like, it's possible Chainalysis has some good visual tools for representing uh, possible transactions that have taken place on Monero, but they'll never know with certainty. It's always, going to be some small probability it could be one of these coins here.
Cool. I mean, I'm definitely going to have to pick your brain more about privacy in the future. I appreciate like what you shared and the knowledge that you have regarding that. When you've been talking about everything with the MWeb extension blocks, is there a minor incentive or disincentive for like when
Um,
people are mining Litecoin to why would somebody not want to mine a block that has MWeb extension in it?
well, they have to have an extension in it. They have to have the extension block in it, but they could have it. It could be empty, right? Um, and it's, if it's some, well, for a while there were mining pools that were mining OFAC compliant blocks. So if ever there was some regulation and some, U.S. based mining company chose not to include any MWeb transactions out of, you know, abundance of caution to avoid legal problems, they could choose to do that. But there's mining fees associated, there's transaction fees associated with MWeb transactions. So from a purely economic standpoint, they'll want to include those.
Okay, so that would be like the incentives. They're getting
Mhm.
transaction fees.
Yep.
Okay, that makes complete sense. Um, all right, now is the job done at Litecoin? Or are you going to
Uh,
continue with
no,
development on any end?
no. So the protocol, it's out there. Litecoin Core is working. There's some improvements we can make, and I have been making to it. But for the, that's towards the later stages there. That's all working decently well. But there's a lot we want to do for third-party projects. So I've been working on APIs for hardware wallets, working on supporting light clients. So like most people don't use Litecoin Core. Most people don't download the whole transaction history and have a full node. Most
Right.
people use some mobile wallet or some light wallet like Electrum, something else. So I've been working on adding MWeb support to those, which is not a straightforward process. So it's been that's been the big focus right now is to, like, now that we have the protocol out there, we have nodes are validating it. We know that the consensus code is done, and launched. But now we're trying to get usage. So that the obvious way to go about that is to target all the wallets. And
Okay,
try
that makes sense.
adoption. Yep.
Now, with Litecoin being a code fork of Bitcoin, and I've called it a test bed for Bitcoin in the past, or test net, and Charlie's not a big fan of that. I think that now, with some of the changes, there's been some firsts that have taken place with Litecoin that I think separates that now, especially with MWeb. With all that being said, how easy would it be if the core developers were on board for Bitcoin to add this as like a BIP, a Bitcoin improvement proposal?
It would be a battle. I mean, from a technical standpoint, they could do it pretty simply. The code isn't very modular. It's its own area. Like the wallet code is it'd be tricky to, like, they'd probably rewrite it. But like from the consensus level, like all the consensus code and the node code, is something that could be ported over to Bitcoin in a fairly straightforward way, just like SegWit was, But like the bigger battle there is getting the developers,
well, that's what I was saying. Let's
crypto Twitter talking heads, whatever.
Let's just pretend in a perfect world that the developers and everybody is like,
assuming
yes,
we didn't fight over
let's
every
add
time
MWeb to Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's
from a technical standpoint. There's the it doesn't rely on any special attribute of Litecoin that in order to make it work. It's something you could apply to just about any UTXO based blockchain.
And in theory, if the developers or core team and it doesn't get consensus, could a hard fork be initiated? And as long as there's miners to mine that hard fork with a Bitcoin with an MWeb extension?
Yeah, if you're doing a hard fork, there's cleaner ways to do it than an extension block. Because the extension block is like, the soft fork thing. Soft forks are very messy. They're good for like a governance standpoint, for like, a consensus standpoint, because you don't have to worry about like chain forks or anything like that. But the soft forks are usually technically sloppy fixes. Like SegWit's a little bit sloppy. It's kind of a hack to fit it in there, and it's not criticizing the developers. SegWit is brilliant, but it's making do with the very rigid set of rules we have available, being able to add something in without breaking the existing rules. So like, that's what a soft fork is. It's a tightening of the rules. Like it's adding additional rules while, maintaining all the existing ones. So we add additional rules in order to make MWeb work as a soft fork while still, allowing all old nodes to continue functioning just fine without knowing anything about MWeb. So, things end up getting really messy, and extension blocks are a messy approach to adding in. Like, if I were to do it as a hard fork, I'd probably just include them right in the regular block. I wouldn't have any kind of special like section and like some transferring back and forth and anything like that. There's probably cleaner approaches to do it, but just purely for the sake of your question, yes, you could hard fork it in also. And
okay, yeah, I'm just curious because I kind of feel like Bitcoin is being limited and throttled on purpose so that people can profit off of like sidechain and solutions like Litecoin, like the Lightning Network and such.
Yeah, it's very possible. There's a lot of factors at play.
I mean, that's why we had the hard forks with Bitcoin Cash and ultimately SV and all the other forks that took place is because of these disagreements.
We have a very messy history, yes.
Yeah. We got the Litecoin halving come up. Do you have any thoughts on the halving?
There should be half as many coins released every 2.5 minutes. That's about the extent of my thoughts.
That's probably
It's
the
an
best
important.
answer I've ever heard.
I mean, it's an important part of what makes the coins valuable. But I don't. Yeah, I don't. This is news to me. I had heard Litecoin having like 2 or 3 times over the past month or so, and that's about all I knew about when it was going to take place. So apparently 167 days from today.
Yeah, roughly 6 months ish. I mean, it's not precise because obviously block times aren't 100% precise. I try to explain that to people as best as possible. Okay, so I have two really two questions really to ask before we wrap up, and that would be the first one would be is why is privacy and fungibility important?
Um, when you go to a store and you buy something from someone, or you buy something from a friend, and you use cash, when you give them the cash, like the they don't know the whole history of everything, right? And they shouldn't, right? Um, you shouldn't need to know everything about those coins or the cash.
Right, they don't need to know that the dollar might have been in a stripper's
Yeah, and they don't need to know how
bar.
many I have, right?
Right.
And so that's, with Bitcoin now, when I spend coins, you can see how many, like I mentioned with the inputs and outputs, you're spending inputs, which are like coins in your wallet, and you're creating new outputs, which is like coins going to other people or change back to yourself. Like they should know that when I give you a Litecoin, that I actually have 490 more of them in my wallet. Like they shouldn't know that. So like, um, right now that's how Litecoin and Bitcoin work. You see how many coins are being spent when I actually give you that. And so it's just the basic privacy of cash is completely missing from blockchains now. And in order to be used, in order to receive your paychecks, like when I spend coins, they shouldn't be able to see how much I get each month in my, or every 2 weeks in the paycheck. Like basic financial privacy is important for obvious reasons, in my opinion. You just don't want your entire financial history. Would you share like your whole just your credit card statement publicly every month? I wouldn't want to. And so
No,
that's
and
all we're really trying to achieve is just basic privacy. We're not trying to, go extreme and promote terrorism or anything. It's just basic.
just the right to privacy.
Mhm.
And I agree, and that's why I wanted to ask you. I mean, it's more, I think, opinion based, and I just kind of wanted to get
Mhm.
your opinion on it
Yeah,
because
yeah. I mean, and I would love pure privacy if we could do it, but it's hard from a technical standpoint. But I don't want anybody to be able to figure out what I'm doing. I don't like that Discover knows how much I spend on each month on things. Like nobody should have that info. But
well,
right
no,
now, some people do, and investigations take place, and the government can learn how much you spend on things with a simple subpoena. I'm against that, but I don't know. I
on
just
the
think
flip
that
side,
like
if you're
it's.
using like a debit card or other like Apple Pay or whatever the situation might be, you're also, in addition to, I mean, it's different with the cryptocurrency address where you can see like what's in your account, but
Mhm,
there's the data collection in too.
mhm,
So if you're using, for example, cash, they don't really have anything to tie you with necessarily at this
mhm,
time. Now, I mean, we could get to a point where facial recognition and
mhm.
all this stuff just connects who you are and then inputs the data into whatever system that they're using. But
Yeah,
um,
there's always a concern of abuse of power, right? People can always abuse that knowledge or the power um, in ways that you would never want, that nobody would want. Um, and I just think the fewer people that have that power, the better, just in
I
general.
yeah, 100% agree on that. The last real question for this interview would be, we had, and you kind of talked a little bit about mixers and shufflers.
Mhm.
That's not what MWeb is, but we've seen the Tornado Cash for Ethereum, the Tornado Cash protocol get
Yeah,
under attack. I think the main developer, I think he's in jail, if I'm
he's
not
still he's
mistaken.
still in there, still no charge as far as I know. It's
Not
horrible.
charged and being held.
Hmm.
That's like some Patriot Act stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
It one, I guess it's a multi-part question. What are your thoughts on that? Just that in general, as a privacy guy doing what you do, and what happened to this individual. What are your thoughts?
So as far as the individual, like the individual didn't commit a crime. It's terrifying because he's just a software developer writing open source code. He's not, we don't know the supposed crime he committed. So we don't know if maybe he actually was laundering money for North Korea or something. Maybe, in which case I kind of understand, that's,
But not being
but
charged, you
that's,
don't know.
but like presumably it's for writing code. And, now if code is illegal, then like my job is probably illegal. So am I going to be arrested someday for MWeb? Probably not. But it's something, it discourages people from contributing, which is obviously the opposite of what open source hopes to accomplish.
Well, the other part that I would ask you about this is knowing that there's other protocols on Ethereum and other chains, and there's other technologies that are supposed to have those kind of aspects, but I haven't seen anything happen with any of those projects. I don't see any of those developers in prison, so it makes me question whether those technologies are actually doing 100% of what they claim they're doing without collecting information and
And
otherwise,
there's concerns like
like
Wasabi.
CoinJoin and all these other
Yeah,
things.
Wasabi CoinJoin. There's very serious concerns that they're working with authorities to share information, not necessarily like for because it's like their government plans or anything like that, but just because that when regulators put your boot on the back of your neck, there it's not much you can do but comply. And there's concerns that they are complying with government requests for information and things like that. So and that they're working with Chainalysis, which they announced. So there's like
CoinJoin announced that they're working with
Wasabi, yeah,
Wasabi
which is CoinJoin is a technology, it's a protocol.
right.
Wasabi is an implementation of it. It's one service that provides that. So like it's run by the Wasabi.
Because there's other coins there's multiple
There's
coins.
there's like Samurai has theirs. It's a different form of CoinJoin. They have the Whirlpool, but
well, DigiByte doesn't it have CoinJoin?
I don't know. I know Dash had something like that, but it was like using master nodes, and it wasn't very good implementation of it.
Okay.
But they did have it. But CoinJoins have been around since 2015 or 16, at least the idea. And so there's various implementations of it out there. Some with very little usage, and the big two, at least on Bitcoin, are the Bitcoin and Samurai that I know of.
Well, if the Tornado Cash developer didn't, and I apologize for not knowing the guy's name, but if he didn't do anything other than write code, then again, it makes me really question some of these other protocols. So are you in agreement with that?
Yeah. So, well, we know that Ethereum's Tornado Cash was being used by North Korea and North Korean hackers, I think.
But any protocol could be used for that too, though. So I mean,
but they specifically were able to trace that, and so there's having the history of use was enough for them to decide that specifically needed to be targeted. I think had they known that North Korea used some other service or technology, they probably would have done the same with that. That doesn't justify it. It still was a horrible abuse of power. But I don't necessarily think because one got called out that others are then weaker as a result. I just think that having the actual evidence that that service was used by political enemies or whatever.
I mean, that makes sense, but then I would think that if they stopped them from using one, that they'll find another to use. So then you want to start making all of these things that would be available to all these individuals not being
Yeah,
able to be used.
and
So
I didn't. Yeah, I don't know the exact wording of the order, but yeah, it is. I was a little surprised that it specifically targeted um, uh, Tornado Cash instead of a more generic, um, you know, no mixing technology or something.
right.
And it may have been a problem of definitions, like how do you define that? Like is Monero and mixing technology, is every transaction considered the same as a as a Tornado Cash transaction at that point? And that may have been why they specifically targeted Tornado Cash and not something more generic, because we know they struggle to define things when it comes to blockchains. They don't understand it, let alone be able to
100%. Yeah.
yeah, technically describe it in laws. So maybe it could have been something as simple as that. I wouldn't be concerned just because they only called them out, that others then must have some vulnerability that the government is able to exploit. There are probably vulnerabilities in many of these technologies that they can take advantage of to at least get a little bit better at tracking things down. But I wouldn't be concerned just because of that order.
That makes sense. And I appreciate you taking time to explain that. We're going to get ready to wrap things up. Like I said, I got a couple things I want to ask you after we're done recording this, but where did this whole shadowy super coder thing come into play at?
Oh, Elizabeth Warren, wasn't it? She, a year or so back, she made some comment about shadowy supercoders working on Bitcoin and stuff, and how made us sound like all terrorists. So that I adopted that at that point.
Sweet,
Yeah,
you embraced it. I love it.
Yeah, I took that on. That I'm pretty sure it was Elizabeth Warren that said it. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, my friend, again, man, I really appreciate your time. Before we do wrap up, was there anything that I didn't ask that you wanted to include, or any final thoughts before we do wrap up today?
I don't think so. No.
Okay.
Good
Well,
chat,
again, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this.
I enjoyed it.
Congratulations on everything the past few years. I know the family's growing, and
Yeah.
you spoke at the Litecoin Summit. In hindsight, I don't know where my mind was at, because I had every intention of at least connecting with you in person, and that did not happen.
I ended up getting violently sick at the end of that and disappeared for the last day. So there's I was only there for part of it anyway. So
in some way, I feel like I ran into you. I didn't run into you and talk to you though at any point.
I was only in there for
okay. I didn't think so.
And that's probably what happened. Yeah.
All right. Well, again, I'm going to have links down below for everything I screen shared. I encourage people, if they want to keep up to date with what you're doing, to follow you on the Twitters, and that'll be down below. And ladies and gentlemen, I do appreciate you taking the time to watch today's video. Make sure you smash that like button if you haven't already, and make sure you subscribe here at Rice TVX and my other YouTube channel, Rice Against the Grain. And before we wrap up, I want to leave you with this. I encourage you, as always, to be a blessing to others. Treat people how you want to be treated. Be the glitch you want to see in the matrix. Be the change that you want to see in the world. And until next time, practice change.